my friend. How are
Hi.
you?
Good, good. You?
Yeah, very well, thanks. How's the week been? Good.
Yeah, busy. One of those even flows. You just gotta go with it. But yeah, we're here. Monday, new week, new energy, new guest.
New guest with
Yeah.
very interesting stuff to share, and an eclipse. Hello.
Yes.
So some interesting energies that are floating
Definitely.
around, but we'll maybe that will come up, maybe that won't. But yeah, very excited to introduce Nicholas, which we don't really call him Nicholas, we call him Nick, but Nicholas Neaves, Dr. Nicholas Neaves. Nick, welcome. Thank you so much for giving us time and your insights and your wisdom.
Thanks, guys.
Nick, you know what? I actually was thinking I want to start this off by probably 3 questions. So the first question would be, who is Nick Neaves? What is Nick Neaves? And why does Nick Neaves do what he does?
Okay, man, if I have it right, it's who, what, why.
Yes. And I'll tell you, for me, the why is probably the most profound.
It is always the one, yeah.
Yeah. So I'll start with the why, and we can go backwards.
Cool.
The why is surrendering to the life that unfolds for me, which would be relationships where I've experienced depths that I'm truly grateful for, but also losses that have broken my heart wide open, which has overflowed into my parenting of 3 beautiful young girls. All in all, respecting and trying as best as I can as a man to understand what feminine energy is all about, what it means to be a woman from a man's perspective also. That's a lot of the why I do the coaching of those life experiences. Then of course there's the clinical background with regards to medicine, the doctor stuff, the helping stuff, the nurturing stuff, and then ultimately coaching people into wellness, understanding who they are and not their symptoms or their disease. And of course, the majority of people seeking wellness are women, right? They are the caretakers of the family very often. They're the nurturing ones, so they come and seek the assistance. And it's been frightening for me to see how bound their hearts are in something called stress. So that's why I do what I do, because I have a knack to help take a bound heart into an unbound space. And I think what's appreciated is to get a man's perspective on some of these things and honest feedback. My sessions are often very honest, very direct. Who Nicholas is, to get back to that original question, I guess truth seeker. I like to get beyond the illusion. So I'm a really bad date because I don't mess around. I used to sit there for 6 hours just chit-chatting about all kinds of nonsense, but now I kind of like cut straight to the chase, and out of that illusion or out of that that fog that a lot of us find, and to the truth. And the truth is where we need to get to for ourselves. So that's a bit of the who Nicholas is a truth seeker. Yeah, I'm a passionate dad too. My girls are now 13, 11, and 9, and of course I'd like them to be as open-hearted and authentic and free-flowing in their feminine energy as possible, with good, healthy perspective on relationships and boundaries, understanding of values, and navigating their way through life with hopefully some of those skills. It's like, so I forgot the middle one now. That was the why. The what. So what is Nicholas? Nicholas is an anchor.
I love that. I don't think I've ever heard anyone describe their what as an anchor. That's actually quite beautiful.
I have it tattooed here too.
Oh, awesome.
Right there. Yeah, man, it's a beautiful metaphor for my life and what I've been through. So I'm reminded of that daily. Yeah, but also to be Nicholas's own anchor, right?
I
That's
was
got to
just gonna
start,
say
right?
that.
Yeah. I've
Yeah.
got to stay
Or
anchored.
else. Yeah.
Yeah, I got to stay anchored in myself often, particularly as the masculine energy, to be able to,
Yes.
you know, ground a lot of the wild and woolly ways of this chaotic world for a lot of people. I've come across a few grounded men in my life, and they've made massive impact, massive impact. You know when you are in the presence of a grounded, anchored man.
Yes, you do.
They are leaders, they are pioneers, and it's not superficial. You feel in their presence that you can just open, you can be authentic, you can just be, and I work towards that.
Awesome. So Nick, so let's give a little bit of kind of context to this. So I want to let our audience know that I attended a workshop that Nick facilitated called Woman Unbound, woman, not women. And it was amazing, like truly amazing. Really made an impact. And I think I want to share with you, Nick, that I think the thing that blew me away the most, and your anchor analogy now comes to the fore, I think, but you asked us all, and it was all women, clearly, at the workshop, and you asked us to share with you an intent of why we were at the workshops. And I say that with inflection, actually. Not like you didn't want to know an objective or an outcome or anything like that. You actually said, what is your intent to be here?
Yeah.
And everybody shared such vastly different intentions. They were like so different and unique. But what I loved is that you, as a facilitator, and obviously I don't like that word, but an alchemist, I mean, that's kind of what you do in these workshops, right? Is that you kind of went into the spaces of all of those intentions. And so by the end of the workshop, I felt you had really kind of nailed where all of us were in our own unique ways. And so I just wanted to actually honor you for that. That's like an amazing gift, actually.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I think for me, I was driving home and I was reflecting on what we'd covered and what had absolutely resonated with me. And I just realized that you have such relevance in the world right now. And I say that in the world, not just, but you really do. And I think that's why I wanted to, I came back, I slept on it. And then I spoke to Tassie about 2 days later and I said, we need to have Nick on holding space, because it's something that we talk about, Taz and I talk about so much, is the space of the masculine and the feminine and what we've had to journey through. And Tassie speaks about it from a cultural perspective. I speak about it from equally culture, but also a generation perspective. It's very interesting. And so, and I know you've shared that today you would like to probably focus on the masculine space, which is great, because I think it's important. And so I'm going to open it up to you to say, well, okay, let's share what's going on in the masculine space. But I want to tell our audience too that you are the author of a book called Unbound. And I thank you for my gift, and I'm almost done. It's truly beautiful, Nick. It really is. It's like I've gone through a myriad of emotions reading your book. From just empathy to really finding parts of myself that made me very emotional. It's an amazing read. That's all I'm going to say is for anybody who is genuinely serious about their you know, their journey of finding truth and authenticity, whether you're masculine or feminine. It's a beautiful book. So at the end, I know Tassie will put all
I'll
the
get
details
all
and
of that
stuff.
and put it in the
Yeah.
description as well, for sure.
Yeah, but I just wanted to say that straight up because I'm sure you're going to mention the book. But on page 24, Nick, you talk about energy essence. And you talk about, you know, the feminine energy essence, and then you talk about the masculine energy essence. And when I was reading that, I was like, just, oh my word, this is, and it's so simple. It's not all big highfalutin words. It's so simple. So I thought maybe that's a good starting point, is if we could talk about what you mean by energy essence and what they are. What's the masculine? What's the feminine energy essence?
Thank you. Yeah, just firstly, thank you. And I'm so glad to hear that that's been your experience with the book. That was the book's intent, to have the reader experience some of those things. I'm really happy to hear that. Thanks. So, you know, where I started with a lot of this work is actually through blood testing in the medical practice. You know, so we would look at people's blood, analyze their blood, you know, get all the figures and numbers, and figure out what was wrong with that essence, that elixir, the blood, you know. And what I noticed that is stress would always take people away from the natural biological essence, which would be to be well and to have homeostasis. And then I started to recognize that lens of looking through people through that dance of the masculine and the feminine, that Tao, the yin and the yang, those polarities, just because when people start to experience stress and they perceive threat to their nervous system, they start to forget, or they start to navigate away from that essence because they're perceiving vulnerability or insecurity and therefore threats around their existence ultimately, right? So they move away from what their natural essence is. And that can lead a person to becoming more ingrained in coping mechanisms to help them not feel that insecurity, to get into a place of safety, which is often, you know, a clasped fist of control. And that's often today expressed as an independence, right? Like a strong independence, like, look, I can make my fists and I can stand on my own 2 feet here. And but yet all that fist dying to do is just, you know, get back to that space of, can I just bound to being unbound, right? So for me, that opening very metaphorically highlighted feminine essence, which is that opening. I mean, biologically, you guys, in your sexual essence, biologically, allow things into you, right? In a man's biological essence, he would enter into those spaces. He would, you know, want to penetrate deeper into an opening. If you have 2 fists coming, they're going to just keep colliding, and all you're going to do is get headbutting and a lot of conflict. If one does this and receives that, there's a beautiful union, right? So what I found with a lot of feminine biological systems, women biologically, okay, who have higher amounts of estrogens, etc., their essence would tend to go towards surrender and opening. And any time that life told them to close down, clench, tighten up throughout their different diaphragms in their body, they would create tension in their systems that would then just invite another conflict and, you know, greater tension that way. And sometimes what's happening now in relationships is, instead of them being this, if they bring this energy, this person now tends to do that. What you're finding a lot is a lot of men are opening and they're getting in touch with their feelings and they're opening to sensitivities and all of these things, which is not a bad thing. But a man who stays open is a man who cannot hold a masculine frame for the safety for this to open.
Mm-hmm.
She stays closed and she loses her essence, which is to be the opening. I sometimes also call it the blooming open flower, right? Where the bee comes to the flower and pollinates the bee. The flower doesn't run after the bee, right? Trying to find bees. The flower stays open. So we lose our essence through the perception of stress, unfortunately. And the longer we stay in that stress state, we start to concretize energy that's counter to our essence, and therefore we hurt ourselves and we create greater dysfunction in our relationships, because we'll then often polarize our partners to what we're being, because that's the natural dance. And another example I give often, is at a dance hall, let's say, where people are, all the ladies are on the one side and the men on the other side. The women are anticipating a man coming up and asking her to dance.
Yeah.
Right? Okay, she's looking so forward to that, right? So the first song starts and she's like, yes, I'm going to be asked to dance. And then what happens? The song ends. No one's asked her. All the men are just sitting there, because all the men are in their feelings and they're anxious and they're nervous and they're being sensitive. And what will she say? Will she reject me, right? They're in their feminine. They're not taking action. They're being passive. They're just sitting on the sidelines. She's sitting there thinking, shit,
What the hell?
Yeah.
What the hell? The second song starts, right? And she's like, okay, maybe now. And by the third or the fourth song, right? The third or the fourth song, if no one's come to ask her to dance, she says, stuff this. And she gets up and she dances on her own. Or she'll ask a friend to dance. So she takes action. She gets into that doing essence. She loses her feminine essence by saying, you know what? I need to do this if I want a result. And that ultimately hurts her. Why? Because if she goes and asks the guy to dance, and now remember, asking the guy to dance can also not just be a man, it can be her career, finance, it can be anything, right? If she goes out to get that, what happens is she has to lead that energy on the dance floor. And we all know that if the woman leads the man on the dance floor, it ain't sexy, man. There's no attraction there. There's no polarity. She might get off on it and go, wow, look at what a great teacher I am. Look at me. But she's in that space. Right? So a lot of the work and the coaching is to help a woman to release, to surrender, to become aware of where the tension is in her body, and to get her back to that essence, so that she can be led on the dance floor of life, so to speak, but be comfortable and feel safe in that space. That's absolutely critical. And unfortunately, these days, that's not happening enough. So when we move away from our essence, we also create imbalance. And I mean, just through the blood tests, you can see in the endocrine system, the hormonal imbalances, the autoimmune diseases, the cancers, etc., that result from stress. And it doesn't mean you can't go out there and do what you got to do. You can go slay your dragons, go and ask guys to dance on the dance floor, but just remember, at the end of the day, at some point, you're going to have to do that, because that's what, and of course, obviously, and I see it with my girls, is when I can help my girls do that, they feel safe. And that's done mostly just through presence and validation, right? Okay, so what the masculine can bring is just being present, witnessing the feminine doing her thing and validating it, saying, you're beautiful. You are the beauty, right? I don't have to fix my little girls, solve their problems. I just need to hold them and hug them and let them cry or let them laugh. But I need to delight in them. I need to cherish them. Because when they feel cherished, they develop self-esteem. They recognize that they can be this, and they can be that, and they can be that. You see, now suddenly we have choice. I can remember my essence. I feel safe enough to go there, but now I want to go play hockey, so I can go and be a great hockey player, right? But I can do that when I need to. And that creates a heartbeat, right? And that's the balance, and that's what we're all looking for. A man also wants to be able to do that at times and be vulnerable. But generally, he wants to be more of the penetrative sort of energy. And when men are just doing that, that's when you enter into a bit more of the pathologies around the masculine, which are obviously toxic, as far as you can men go two pathways, either into shame or grandiosity, when they are too hard, meaning they go into abusive, controlling behaviors, or they go into the shame, which is very passive, weak, mediocre type of energy where they don't show up, they don't have the self-confidence to take a risk. And I mean, that's another discussion we can have just now, perhaps. But generally, that's your essence, right? The masculine essence is that which penetrates through things. It's that hunter who goes and makes the kill, brings back the meat, so to speak. And that feminine essence is going to be the one who receives the gifts from that, and opens and actually controls the opening of the relationship. In other words, the depth of feeling within the relationship.
Yeah.
Stress that women, because they get stressed like this, the feeling in the relationship disappears, and it's all about what we can do. So it's about doing. But the feeling is lost, which is the romance, which is the excitement, the attraction. The women often complain, oh, why isn't my partner more this and more that and all of those things? And it's because she's doing that. And of course, it's both people, of course, but she needs to recognize that the more she opens, creates an invitation to draw him into her feminine beauty, okay, which could just be, maybe she puts on that special dress for him, right? Or maybe she asks him to massage her. She invites him into her world of her body, her appearance, her beauty, and that's how she gifts him, is through bringing that to his world. And trust me, a man's world is often very dark. We often we need that light, and the light, right? And a woman's beauty, when she's in her radiant sort of space where she is more open, is such a gift to a man in his dark world of logic and just thinking and problem solving. She is that delight. She is that escape into a heavenly, ecstatic space for him. And you'll find any man, a successful man who makes a lot of money, or he does this, or he does that, or he makes a great killing, or whatever, he wins the trophy, he's always going to want to bring that back to something. And that something is often a woman, right? He's going to want her to delight in him and like, yay. Sure, it could be a bit of ego there, absolutely. But the masculine grows when it's appreciated, when it's cheered on, and it's spurred on. And we need that energy. Unfortunately, it's been so diluted. We've been told, things around, with the whole spiritual movement, be humble and meditate and do all of these things and find inner peace. Absolutely. But you know what? We don't just need inner peace. We need men who are prepared to go to war, damn it. I'm not going to go to war with a whole bunch of yogis. No offense to them, right? If shit needs to be done, like I want to meet those men who know how to do that, not just sit there meditating. And unfortunately, that's just who we are as human beings. Is that we need to show up. We need to take action somewhere in our lives. For example, here's a good simple example: 2:00 in the morning, someone's bashing at your door. You're lying in bed with your partner. You don't want him to suddenly go into a meditation and like, the person away. To get up with the baseball bat, and you want him to take action and go to the door and see who the hell's there bashing your door down at 2:00 in the morning. And you also don't want him to lie there and say, babe, would you mind getting that? Right? Yeah. Like, oh, I'm a bit scared. No, you want him to get up and take action. So we can't get away from these essences, but people try to, or they forget them. And of course, they are often playing in the realm of the opposite essence more than their own essence, because we haven't had great role models on how to feel safe in those essences. And of course, we know that men have abused their essence very often, right? They've abused that penetrative power and just taking what they want. And a lot of my work is trauma-based. I work so much with molestation, rape, abuse, and all of these things because I'm saying no, but you're not stopping. I just take what I want. That's very toxic. And that's not being in your masculine essence, right? That's pathology.
It's violence too, isn't it? I mean, it's it's a form of violence. Yeah, I mean, there's
You
so
see-
much to unpack. I actually had a moment, Nick, when there was a point where you were speaking and I literally had a heart expansion. But yeah, I mean, I come from that generation of believing. So it was a program that in order to be heard and seen, you had to become little men, particularly in the corporate environments. And I've shared a little bit about this on other, with in some of the other guests, but that was such a hectic journey for me of and we were aware of it. I mean, we even dressed like men, it was crazy, like pantsuits and shoulder pads out like this, and just to be recognized and heard and find a seat around the boardroom table, but with that, so then you got there, but then you had almost the sarcasm and the ridicule and the which built up so much chauvinism in us, that's been part of my journey, is realizing actually how chauvinistic I was around men, and this whole sort of paradigm of like, yeah, but look what you did to us. And so my journey has been a lot around the inner release of that chauvinism, and also to literally find my feminine essence again. It was and a lot of my relationships were around almost finding emotionally detached men, because that was just safer. It could all just be very kind of surface and whatever, and having done so much kind of inner work and inner journeying, and yeah, I mean, that's what's so powerful. I think that was where the heart shift was for me when you were speaking. But so much so that when I tried to fall pregnant, I couldn't. I literally, and there was no explanation as to why. I mean, did all the fertility treatments, whatever, everything came back, but I knew energetically what had happened was this, that I'd so tapped into the masculine that the feminine side of my body physically just didn't come to the party, so it was cysts and it was all sorts of things, but that was very much and I didn't ever fall pregnant, but I adopted a child from birth, and I mean that was almost the beginnings of my nurturing and really kind of finding the start of that feminine. But Tazy, and I could see you wanted to say something.
Yeah, no, I want to just thank you, Nick, for that beautiful, like really in-depth kind of explanation of what the energy essences is. And for me, my takeaway is really about not just knowing what your essence is, but being able to find the healthy flow between the masculine essence and the feminine essence within whoever you are, because we possess both of them, and to allow that beautiful dance to actually just happen between two partners in any union.
Well, that's just it, and what you'll find, you see, so the essences become really important when it comes to healthy relating, because you need, and so I'm in a male biological system.
Yes.
Okay, but I can also maybe in, let's say, a moment of romance, be the one that's opening and being receptive to my partner. Maybe she's feeling a little bit more dominant or penetrative in that moment, so I might play that so that she can enter into my space. But and that can play out in many different ways. I've just had a birthday, for example, so that's, people want to message you and say hi, and they want to give you gifts and stuff like that. So that's a very receptive space to go into, gratitude and thank you for the gifts and things like that. And so that's one example. Also, obviously, intimately, right? Some moments you might feel that you want to receive more, and at other times you want to give more. But it's when both partners want to do the same that there's problems. And what happens with that dance is a lack of awareness of where you are in any given moment, and it's a daily practice of becoming aware, number one, of what is your natural essence, and therefore how to get back to that on a daily basis, so that you can, almost like you were saying just now, transition from one space to the next space to get the best results that you want in life. You know, if I had a partner that came home, for example, and she was really edgy, and I could feel she was hard and she was tense and she had a really busy day, I would demand that she go and take some space, do what she would need to do, but to bring back my lover. Thank you very much. I don't want I don't want the career woman. I respect that you've got a career. I respect that you can be independent and strong and wonderful. But I want to know if you can open up to me. I want to know if you can honor me and gift me with your sweetness and your softness and your gentleness, because that's what nourishes my body as your lover, as the masculine. So I need to learn how to fight for that daily. And men have become really shocking at that, right? They forget how to help their women transition from one space to the next space. And remember also, we're talking energies now, so it doesn't have to be, so the biology matters, but it doesn't matter. We're talking about the energy, I think is the point here, is, if you can get, because this can happen in homosexual relationships too, right? It depends on who's carrying what polarity at any given time. And those practices can be enhanced, and actually the greater the polarity, it's like an elastic band, right? The greater the polarity, feminine, masculine, that you create, the stronger the rebound effect's going to be. Right. If you guys are kind of like in this zone here, and that's what happens to most couples, is that they end up in this gray zone because nobody's prepared to take the risk of polarizing, meaning taking the relationship to the edge, taking a greater risk, being more forthright or whatever, or being more vulnerable, more communicative. They just stay here. And that's why, and then of course what happens is you then in your environment, whatever, you meet somebody who does take you out there every day. Maybe it's the new secretary, or it's the new manager, or whatever, or it's the rep that comes and visits you, and you get polarized there. Or in a man's case, unfortunately, what's happening is they're getting polarized to pornography. But what happens is that they and it's not a true polarization, right? Because it's like a thief in the night. It gives them the perception that they're being polarized into their masculine. But what's actually been done is that they've been deceived into having some kind of sexual release there with an image or a video or whatever it is that actually ultimately keeps them in their passive, shameful mode of operating, versus saying, you know what, I'm a sexual being. How do I bring that to my partner? I have desire. I desire you. You, my lover. How do I fight for you? How do I fight for you daily? Right? There was that Daniel Day-Lewis movie, The Last of the Mohicans, and that for me again, like metaphorically, just such a beautiful example of, he was this Mohican, right? And he fell in love with this lady who was there at the time, and I think they came and they kidnapped her or something, and they took her away. And he promised her, I'll cross any mountain, any river, any ocean. I will find you, and I'll come and get you. And he does.
I mean, let's be honest, that's what we want,
Yeah,
really
but how many men do that, right? How many men do that? Because they pick up their phone and they swipe, right? Or they log into some image or something and they just jerk off to that. They're not prepared to go over a mountain or a river or an ocean anymore, because why?
Do the work. They're not prepared to do the work, to make the effort.
Yeah, so that masculine space has become lazy and very diluted, unfortunately, and that is why there's a lot of, and that is why, unfortunately, you'll find endocrine issues, fibromyalgia, cyst formation, just general inflammation in the body, fibroids, you name it, in women, because they're too high in cortisol, and it impacts the insulin, and those two hormones run havoc through your body that cause all kinds of symptoms.
Okay,
Because
that
when
is
you
me.
maintain a high
That
level
is
of
me to a
cortisol,
T. You've just described me completely,
but
Nicholas.
it's because of long-term chronic stress of being clamped,
Yes.
of being bound.
Being the doer.
Okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, because you haven't felt safe enough somewhere with your relationships or your environment to do that.
Yep.
To trust that you can allow that. Okay? And one of the major things that I find women struggle with these days is to ask for help.
Yep.
Right? Or to receive from a man. They feel vulnerable. You know, it's like, don't move my chair out for me. Don't open the door for me. What are you gonna expect me to do later? I'll pay for my own meal, thank you. Right? And the guy's like, what the hell am I supposed to do? I'm trying to be a gentleman, but she's so defensive.
Yeah.
It's because she's in a chronic state of stress. She's in a chronic clamped down position of internal stress, you know. So a lot of the work and a lot of the coaching isn't just theoretical. Hey? It's about actually embodying what it means to do that to your body.
Yes.
Right. And that's actual physical therapy too, and work, and you know, breathing and using water and all kinds of different things to nourish your nervous systems on a daily basis, to gain the awareness of. And I often say to people, have a scale of 1 to 10, right? If 10 was, let's say, maximal masculine energy, where you are really slaying your dragons, and 0 was back to where you want to be, your feminine essence, where are you on that scale of masculine energy? Has your day been really busy? Have you had a lot of meetings? How's the traffic been? Have you had a lot of conflict at work? Have you been handed a whole bunch more projects? Where are you? And how do you know to come back to that? Because again, if you came back to me with a 9 out of 10 masculine energy, I would naturally gravitate to my feminine energy and give you space. I'm like, whoa, she's tense. Whoa, she looks irritated. Let me just leave her alone. Right? That's not what you want. At the end of the day, you want him to help you shift out of that place romantically. So that you can, in his presence, feel safe again, to find the lover and that feminine essence within yourself again. And unfortunately, men don't have that skill to do that, and women also don't have the skill to know how to transition back to that place. So we're all a bit mixed up at the moment, and that's why there's a lot of issues, you know. It's a you know, we were all worried about the COVID story. I was more worried about masculine and feminine energies fucking up the planet, you know.
Yeah, totally. No, totally. And you know, it's so interesting, Nick, and I mean, Tassie will know. So I've literally become like a hermit for the last, I don't know. I mean, forget COVID. I mean, you know, that was just, but I've literally just been in my own space, doing a lot of breath work and stuff like that. And sometimes I mean, I share with Taz, I said, I don't know what's going on. I'm like, I'm in a void, you know, because Alison of old would be pushing, like constantly, you know, striving. Why are you just sitting? Get going. I mean, do something. I know, exactly. And then it just, and I know the moments, I know when all of this started to just fall into place so beautifully, but I have needed to almost walk away from the old paradigms and have the space. Some will say selfish, tough. It's a good selfish. Yes. But I've needed to be in this little cocoon of Alison to do this. And find, just the stuff you're talking about. I mean, I'm not 100% there, but gee whiz, when I think about, and just health-wise, how much better I'm feeling and how much lighter I'm feeling and how much more open, so much. But I needed to actually get into that, to find that cocoon. I don't think I could have done it had I been in that constant go, making things happen, which I do really well. You know, it's like I'm so programmed in to actually walk away. So
amazing that you could do that. And you know, so again, I'm not too sure, you know, relationship wise how that was impacted when you did that and like that, but I mean, of course you do need to get perspective. You know, they call that moon perspective. You need to be able to look back down upon things and not be in it. And that's beautiful. In relationship, what happens is we want the we to be able to feel as safe as possible. Now, unfortunately, what happens because of stress, a lot of people go and focus on the I. And they go into hermit mode or whatever it may be. And there's nothing wrong with that. But unless it's communicated in a way that makes the other person understand and feel safe, it becomes a threat to the relationship. And it's well intentioned, but we need to understand that when we're looking at the masculine feminine dance, we want to understand that it's a two-person biological system, which means what you do impacts me and what I do impacts you. So if you need to go and be with you, there is an impact here, right? So good for you that you can do that, and please do that. But where does that, you know, if you're in relationship, right? Obviously, if you're on your own, it's a whole different story. And what my point is that I believe that relationships, when healthy, can co-regulate each other into polarity and back into health. There's too much emphasis of becoming the I and the individual again. Now, I understand that through trauma, a lot of us do that to cope. We are taught how to be strong and maybe get our needs met on our own. I understand that we can get to that place. But here's what I mean, right? You went into hermit mode for a couple of days, couple of weeks, I would say. Is that right?
Way longer than that.
Okay. So let me say it like this, all right? So it's because you were burning out in that masculine mode, because you were negating your natural essence. You were out of balance, okay? Now, if you had a greater sense of balance, you might have been able to go between the two places in a healthier, more nourishing way for yourself that maybe would have not led you to having to retreat as much. And again, there's nothing wrong with that, okay? But can you imagine a scenario like this? Okay, let's say that you were like 8 out of 10 in your stress at that moment getting burnt out, okay? And let's say Jason Momoa, right?
Johnny Depp, but anyway,
Johnny Depp. I'll take Jason Momoa.
Okay, well, right, am I hitting it the nail on the head there? Okay. So Johnny Depp, Jason Momoa, let's say they're starring in a movie together, and they're shooting right next door to your office where you're busy burning out, okay? But you get to have a view of them, and every day you share the same canteen and you have lunch together, and every day you nourished by Johnny Depp or Jason Momoa's masculine energy, which wouldn't be an 8 out of 10, it might be a 9 out of 10. That polarity dynamic, and I'm not saying you're having a relationship with them, but what I'm saying is if you were in a presence of a stronger, greater, more present, certain, confident masculine energy, it would naturally have pushed you more into your feminine. And every day, am I not right here, ladies? You would have dressed up a bit more. You would have anticipated seeing him. You would have gotten excited. You would have got the butterflies again. You would have had way more estrogen pumping through your system than cortisol, because you would want to attract, you'd want to open, and will he notice me today? Will he say hi to me today? Will we maybe sit and chat today? Right? You're not going to be worried about the damn deadline or the next project. That it's going to be more about like, did Johnny Depp say hi to me that morning? You get what I'm saying? So what I say to men in relationship is, why the hell are you not Johnny Depp?
Yeah.
Right? Why are you not Jason Momoa to your wife or to your partner? Where did you go wrong on your journey that you think less than yourself to be that? I mean, Johnny Depp and Jason Momoa, I don't know them personally, but they certainly have confidence. They've got a certainty, right, to show up like that and to act and do these different things. I mean, you need a level of self-awareness and emotional skill, and right, we agree with that. I mean, they could be complete a-holes back at home. We don't know that, but I'm saying they're reaching their full potential, let's say it like that. And they're very successful, so they have a lot of status. And I say to men, well, where are you tapped into your mission and your purpose? Most men haven't got a clue what their purpose or their missions are. And at the first sign of rejection or criticism, they crumble and they back down because they're desperately needing women's attention and approval, that they become people pleasers, right? And they become these nice guys. And that dilutes all attraction and the ability to help the relationship to co-regulate, where you're coming back to a Johnny Depp or a Jason Momoa every day. I mean, if you knew that Jason Momoa was back at home, you know, and you were coming back from work, you wouldn't come back from work like all like tense and like, oh, you know,
Yeah.
you're gonna want to like in the car, you'll put some music on, you'll loosen your body, you'll want to feel sexy because you're going to want to like, oh, you know, it's Jason. I can't wait to see you anticipate seeing Jason. And it's that anticipation that science has shown that pushes estrogen up.
Mm-hmm.
And what does estrogen do? It lowers cortisol and insulin. And what does that do? It cures and helps most inflammatory diseases. When a woman is in her natural feminine essence of higher levels of estrogen than the stress hormones, right? Okay, so what I'm saying there is it's great to retreat and to recognize you're in a burnout phase and you can go and retreat and nourish yourself. That's beautiful. I'm all for healthy relationships, and that's what the coaching is to help strengthen that two biological system into healthy relating, communication, conflict resolution, so that the people can nourish each other from a masculine and a feminine place, the way it was designed.
Well, I think you beautifully answered.
Nick, I have a question around. So, I mean, we all haven't got to where we are, not even age-wise, but just experience-wise, without woundings, you know, and baggage, and
yeah.
So we all carry that backpack, you know. So, and this is actually what we'll talk about when we're doing more of the corporate stuff, which is another call. But you know, I don't know, and I mean, this is just where I am in the space I'm in, is no one can do that healing for you, okay, except you. I mean, like Tassie has this beautiful saying, she says, you know, the only way is through, right?
Yeah.
And so
Alison, it's a great point. I just want to jump in there quickly. Here's what I'm saying, okay? We can get very, and as I say, my practice it's very clinically based. I work mostly with trauma, etc., etc. So I completely understand where you're coming from, okay? If you were we're going back to masculine, feminine essence and the energy of that, okay? If you were consistently in the presence of a strong masculine energy, okay, and you were carrying on with your daily routine and have all that trauma, have all the pain, have whatever you've been through, you will naturally gravitate to your essence, which will naturally be curative, healing, nourishing, to the point that your moments will be more about the dance than what trauma I've experienced.
Right.
It's often when we go into the I and the independence that we overly focus on the trauma, the pain, the suffering, and we over perpetuate that very often. And what I have found is that when you help shift the relationship around and the man starts showing up better, that trauma or abuse or whatever, let's say his partner's been through, that's not the focus anymore. What becomes the focus is the love making, the union, the we. And that's the way forward. Because we all know with trauma and a lot of these experiences, some of that stuff you never get over, man. I mean, my one of my greatest traumas was losing my wife. She had cancer and she passed away when she was 29. I don't know if I'll ever get over that 100%.
Yeah.
Okay. But if you put me in the presence of a very feminine woman, I'm not going to be thinking about that pain or that trauma. I'm going to be wanting to do this dance. Thank you very much.
Right.
Are you with me? So we have to remember that together we can heal. I'm really concerned at the moment about the current culture about becoming independently self-curative, because we are becoming islands. And the problem with the island phenomenon is the ego, and therefore the absolute rampaging energy of narcissism running through the planet, versus a healthy interdependence.
Yeah.
And what that can do, you know, a lot of the things that we suggest in the coaching is obviously how to deepen and strengthen intimacy and stuff like that. And I mean, if you get that right and you feel safe enough and you're experiencing that on a regular basis, that alone is designed to be so incredibly nourishing and healing towards the body. Yes, of course, when you enter with your partner, a lot of your trauma and your sexual traumas will come up, obviously. But that's an opportunity not to do that. It's an opportunity to stay and to work together. But the problem that I find in the practice with a lot of this togetherness is the women are often the ones who show up again, but the men don't. That unfortunately, you need both partners to buy in.
Yeah.
So you don't you have a woman who's willing and open and wanting to, you know, or vice versa, be nourished by her partner, but the partner doesn't want to show up, right? Which is unfortunate. But we all know that when the couple works, when that two biological system is nourishing, we know this, that the science says more wealth, more health, longevity, etc., right? The family system is better, the children flourish. I mean, just look at the statistics in fatherless homes, right? I mean, the suicide, you go look at the prisons. You know, how many men are in the prisons compared to women? Go look at where those fathers are.
Yep.
Right. So when we can get this right, it flourishes down, it nourishes, you know, the kiddies. And we have to get back to community, and the community starts here, the primary relationship of him and her and the union of that. And I believe with your creator or God or whatever your belief is, needs to come above that so that it can filter down. So many people too much on the spiritual new age freaking movement, which again I respect and stuff, but you know, a lot of us walk around thinking we are God. We need to be humble to a greater, so that the love can flow down, you know, and unfortunately we're all swimming upstream trying to sort things out, but love and life flows from those who've come before us. They come from, you know, the creator and stuff like that, and we need to honor that, be humble to that, and be open to those things, I believe.
That's beautiful. Such a beautiful explanation.
Very beautiful.
So what's this bad boy, you know, so why are women so sort of attracted to this bad boy kind of archetype? What's that about? And I know, look, the 50 Shades of Grey and whatever other all perpetuate this, you know, bad boy, wounded,
the wounded boy, yeah,
mother issues, you know.
Well, yeah, I mean, you know, just going back to some studies that I've looked at and researched, I know one of them was circulating on YouTube recently, and it was a very interesting study on looking at what women are attracted to as far as archetypes are concerned, okay? And the top 5 archetypes that came back that women are attracted to, and I don't know if I got the order right, but these are pretty much them, okay? The first thing was a vampire, okay? The second thing was a pirate. The third thing was a werewolf. And I think the fourth thing was this 50 Shades billionaire guy. Yeah. And I think the fifth thing was like a heart surgeon or like a highfalutin medical person or whatever, okay? But I mean, all of those things are archetypes. Vampire, werewolf, pirate. What the hell is that about, right? Yeah. Why do women subconsciously look at that as something that's attractive? And it is because I believe that the vampire knows what it wants. Okay, it's not passive. It doesn't just sit there when the music starts. It goes and it looks at you, and it doesn't ask you, "Can I suck the blood out of your neck?" You know, okay? You know, it's not going to say, "Hey, you know, can I feed on you tonight?"
But so on point.
It comes up to you, and it just it takes you. Okay, a werewolf,
Yes.
a werewolf will hunt you down and take you. A pirate doesn't walk into the harbor and look at the woman and like have an insecurity complex. Oh, do those women find me attractive? No, he's been out to sea for 6 months. He's going to grab the nearest woman and want to go and shag her in the nearest barn somewhere. You see, he's just going to take her. Okay. Yes. Now, women want that. bad boy energy from the point of view of that man is more invested in himself than her. So he's got an anchor to go back to. She's not his anchor.
She's not his anchor.
Yes.
Therefore, she does not have to be responsible for him. She can surrender to him because he's that confident and that certain that this can happen. She doesn't want to be that. You know, the vampire, that's not a vampire energy. It's not a way of, you know, try to do that to a vampire, right?
Yeah.
Okay. That's what happens there, okay? So you want a bad boy energy, but you don't want an abusive man. You understand? That's where it gets mixed up, is that a lot of bad boys end up abusing women and really actually causing major hurt and violence, etc. You want a man who knows what he wants daily, who, like we've just put the Jason Momoa, Johnny Depp thing. I mean, Johnny Depp was the perfect pirate archetype, right? And the truth is, every woman's heart is pulled on two strings, and the first one is she wants safety and security. So she wants the home and the family, and she wants to know that there's a nest that she can be safe in. But the other part of her heart longs for the adventure. Okay,
the wild woman.
Totally.
She wants to be able to go into that space too. Now, unfortunately, a lot of men know how to provide safety, but they don't know how to take her into that vampire, werewolf, pirate sort of energy that creates a lot of attraction. So unfortunately, a lot of these women then get caught up on social media or stories, or they get sort of hijacked with these men who promise them the world, who are these bad boys, but then they siphon all their money out of their lives. They get scammed, or they get sucked into Netflix and they're watching through fantasy.
Yes,
right?
that's what I was going to say. Yeah.
Fantasy, right? So again, it's all mixed up, but the bad boy energy is just a man who knows what he wants. He is more certain and confident than other men in the area, so he has higher status, so therefore he has a higher attractive ability, because women want to have a man who's most certain and confident, because she ultimately subconsciously believes that she can have the safest, most healthiest babies with him. It's a biological thing.
Yeah.
And also because he's not invested in her. Right, like when a man leans too much into a woman, that's what happens. Right, he needs to be here and she needs to be here. She actually needs to come more to him, right, so that he can then meet her there. Right. In other words, what I mean by that is that she has to show up at the dance in a lovely dress and be attractive, right, so that he sees, okay, she's interested, she is open to me, she has desire for me. Let me go and ask her to dance. Okay. And it takes a pirate, it takes a vampire to get up and say, hey, I want to dance with you. And he knows how to lead you on the dance floor of life in relationship daily, taking your heart deeper, where you can take your heart ultimately into a deeper experience of this thing we call God, where together you can have more of that experience on a more regular basis, where you actually generally just melt into each other and you become one more of the time. Right? That's where the bliss is.
Okay, Nick, so I have a question. Thank you so much for that. But I have a question on the feminine leaning into the masculine, right? As you so beautifully described.
Yeah.
But then
it's more of an invitation, right? Remember, she needs to be that bloom. She needs to be in that certainty of her beauty. Therefore, she is creating an invitation, whether she throws the little white hanky on the floor and she waits for him to pick it up, or she bats her eyelids, right? Or she does her hair back, or whatever it may be, but she creates the invitation for him.
She's created the invitation.
Yeah.
She gets radio silence in response. What's going on there? What's going on in the masculine to create that radio silence response? And she's done everything that she feels was adequate for an invitation, but he's,
Yeah, so there's a difference between creating an invitation and then also being needy. Okay, so what I mean by that is, the woman's going to throw the white hanky on the floor, and whoever's most honorable and loyal, she will wait to have that being picked up, and then that's the person that she will choose. She doesn't go after some guy and throw the hanky in front of him and hope he picks it up because he's hot or whatever, or he looks like a bad boy.
So it's an open invitation, basically, is what you're saying.
Well, not an open. I mean, we need very clear boundaries here and standards.
Yeah.
That can obviously also be an issue. But what I mean is when a woman is lacking in a fullness and a recognition of her own love and beauty, she's going to often subconsciously lean into a man for his attention, okay, to make her be accepted and chaste and light and things like that. Okay, it's the women that are again just like I say, blooming, meaning she's creative, she's flowing, she's enjoying her own space, she's open. Okay, she's worked on a lot of stuff that's happened to her, so she's maybe not as defensive. Okay, she's not as rejecting, critical, meaning she's a bit more flexible. She's open to his advance. Okay, in other words, let's say she's at that dance, like the analogy we had, and let's say Peter comes up to her, but she doesn't really like Peter. She's not attracted to Peter, but Peter's asking her to dance. Okay, that's an interesting to discuss. Then, does she say yes or no? Right? No one else has come up to say, "Hey, would you like to dance?" So I would like to think, it's a 3-minute dance. It's not a lifelong commitment, right? It's not like we're going to get married. Stay open to somebody like a Peter who you don't find necessarily that attractive, that you might think is boring. He may very much surprise you in a beautiful dance where your attraction can grow for him over a period of time. Don't just look at the one guy in the corner there, is what I mean. So it all depends. It comes from the intent. Like often when men also go after a woman, women can very quickly pick up, does this man need a mommy, right? Or is he going to be controlling and abusive and stuff like that? That's what I mean. Okay, he needs to be that anchor. In other words, I don't need you, but you look nice. Let's dance.
Yes.
See where this goes, right? And the same thing for a woman there also is that if she's getting radio silence, she needs to look at herself and say, okay, was I a little bit too aggressive with my energy? Which could be the case. And it's very subtle. It doesn't have to be overt, aggressive intent. It can just be, oh, I really like this guy. Is he the one? And you've just met him.
It's the energy. It's basically the energy of that's carried through in your.
It's the energy. In other words, are you penetrating into him? Okay, that's different from creating the invitation. It's very different. Okay, so if you honestly have just created the invitation, you don't care if you get radio silence or not. Why? Because there's thousands and millions of bees flying around. Like it's his loss.
Yes.
Right? So and you trust. This is the difference between a fullness of your heart versus an empty or a traumatized heart, is that you believe in abundance. Okay? You believe that radio silence, oh, great. That's just a way of filtering out the riffraff. Let me get rid of that person because my standards are dictating better and healthy communication. Okay. And wait until that person does show up and keep working on not being as affected or wounded by that radio silence. Right? It's like that person's problem for whatever reason, but according to me, I like a timeous response. I like communication. I like opening up during that time and a bit of vulnerability. And I like honesty and I like follow through. Therefore, I like that confidence and certainty. And damn it, I like a man who actually gets me off the damn phone and actually gets me in a date.
Yeah.
Right? So many women are just texting, talking forever. And it's like, oh, what a wonderful relationship. Bullshit. You don't have a relationship. The guy needs to take you out into actual, you need to get out of that 3D world into the 2D where you actually are interacting with each other. And if that's not happened after a couple of exchanges on texting or whatever it may be, you've got to put your standards up and you've got to just basically say, hey, listen, I'm the kind of girl who likes to meet in person. You seem like a really nice guy. When you're prepared to ask me out, hey, I'm here. I'm open for that. But until then, I'm not going to be texting you any longer. But you know where to find me, basically. That tells a guy very quickly, hey, this woman's got, she knows what she wants. And she's saying, hey, I like you. Come get me, right? but I'm not going to come and get you. You make the plan and take action, but I'm not going to keep texting you.
Yeah.
I hope
That's
that answers
the
the
boundary.
question.
No, it does. It does.
Yeah.
But that's the boundaries that you talk about in that roadmap, Nick.
Yeah.
You know, from if you're just starting off in a relationship, you know, that you have clarity in terms of your boundaries, you know.
Yeah. It's tough, but you need to before dating, just be very clear about those things before actually going into a dating experience.
Yeah.
Because we all know this, you know, we all kind of like end up in situationships or whatever the hell it is, and after a couple of months you're in a relationship, and I was like, how the hell did I get here?
Yeah.
And then 2 years in, you know, the guy's an absolute wanker, and it's like, what the hell happened? Again, the word intention. You need to be intentional in what it is that you're doing. And realize also that you're never going to get to a point of perfect healing. You're not going to be 100%, okay, cool, now I can get out and do my thing. No, again, like I was saying, we heal and we get better by practicing and being together. That's what people need to realize, is that in relationships, we grow and we learn. Not to avoid, right? You know, and I mean, I get it. I get why we're going to want to avoid, and I really, really do. But, you know, it's a case of saying, you know what, I believe that the we can be stronger than any I experience that I can have, and that's why I want to invest in it, because two bodies and minds and souls that are aligned are definitely going to be better than one.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
And look, we know that the biggest journeys and quests and learnings happen in relationships, right? I mean, that's
in the relationship. Yeah.
Yes, any relationship, absolutely. Okay, Nick. So, I mean, she's how quickly did that time go? It's like crazy.
Yeah.
Where can people buy your book? Okay, well, we have paperbacks now available, which is great, and then also on Amazon on Kindle. Unbound is available there, hard copy, and on Kindle. And then the new book, An Unbound Heart, is only available on Kindle on Amazon, but paperbacks also available now too. So both books are currently available, and they can get that through Unbound Coaching, the Facebook page, or just, you know, contacting us on some of the details that you guys have there. You know, kind of publishing and getting them out on my own this side. So contact us here and we can help them with that. Yeah.
Right. You do have a website, right?
Yep. Yeah, that's drnicholas.com.
Okay, great. And then you are quite present on Insta as well. Yeah,
social media. I like to use it as a resource platform to just really help inform and really get some hopefully quality content out that invigorates people, agitates people, you know, and it's 9 times out of 10 not my own personal stuff. I mean, I'm posting on there just really as a platform so that it can be inspiring and get people thinking. And yeah, if they need more contact with us, they can reach us there. So Facebook, Instagram, YouTube channel as well, also there. So,
oh, awesome.
Fabulous. Oh,
thanks,
Nick,
guys.
Thank you. It was amazing. Again,
thank you, Nick.
So many insights.
I feel like we need to do a follow-up of this, because I feel there's just so many more, you know, questions and aspects of this union of the masculine, of the feminine, of the stance that we can really dive in. So Al and I will chat, but I think we really should have another episode of this.
Totally.
I look forward to that. Thanks, guys. Thanks for the invitation.
Thanks, Nick. Really appreciate it. Speak soon.
Thank you so much. Take care now.